Have you ever wondered who the most evil rulers in ancient history were? The ones whose names still send chills down our spines? People who didn't just rule, but rule with cruelty and fear, leaving behind stories so dark that even today, they shock us. In this video, we're going deep into the past to uncover some of the worst rulers the world has ever seen, and the terrifying things they did. Stay with me, because what you'll hear might just change how you think about history. History is full of inspiring leaders who built great empires, created peace, or led their people to prosperity. But alongside these stories, there are darker tales. Rulers who use their power for selfishness, cruelty, and even madness. When one person holds too much power without checks, terrible things can happen. Some rulers punished innocent people, killed family members, and destroyed entire cities. Their stories are not just warnings. They show us what happens when fear and cruelty become tools of leadership. In this video, we'll explore the lives of 10 of the most evil rulers in ancient history. You'll hear about the brutal acts they committed, the fear they spread, and the legacy they left behind. So sit tight and prepare yourself. History's darkest rulers are about to be revealed. 1. Nero, the Roman emperor who burned Rome. Nero ruled the Roman Empire from 54 to 68 AD. One of the most infamous moments of his reign was the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, which destroyed much of the city and left tens of thousands homeless. Some ancient writers accuse Nero of starting the fire himself, hoping to clear space for a massive new palace complex called the Domus Aurea. Though modern historians debate this, what's undeniable is Nero's cruel response. Instead of helping the people rebuild, Nero blamed the Christians for fire and used them as scapegoats. Christians were arrested, tortured, and executed in horrible ways. Some were wrapped in animal skins and torn apart by dogs. Others were burned alive as human torches to light Nero's gardens at night. Nero's cruelty didn't stop with the fire. He killed his own mother Agrippina, who had helped to become emperor, but later stood in his way. He also executed his wife and stepbrother. Nero was known for his extravagance, wasting Rome's wealth on lavish parties while the city suffered. He spent much of his time performing on stage, acting and singing, rather than focusing on ruling. His people grew to hate him, and after years of misrule, he was declared an enemy of the state and took his own life. 2. Genghis Khan, the brutal Mongol conqueror. Genghis Khan, born Temujin, rose from a difficult childhood to unite the Mongol tribes and create the largest land empire in history. His military genius is legendary, but so is the terror he brought with him. When Genghis Khan's armies invaded a city, the destruction was total. Entire populations were slaughtered, homes burned, and survivors enslaved. One brutal example is the city of Nishapur, where after the Mongol general was killed during the siege, Genghis Khan reportedly ordered a massacre of every person, men, women, and children. The death toll might have reached into the millions. His army's speed and cruelty were designed to crush resistance completely. Cities that surrendered were spared, but those that fought were wiped out without mercy. This terror strategy helped Genghis Khan conquer vast lands quickly. Yet, Genghis Khan was also a lawgiver who created a code of laws called the Yasa. He promoted trade along the Silk Road and allowed religious freedom within his empire. But the bloodshed and fear he spread remain his lasting legacy. 3. Ivan the Terrible, the first Tsar of Russia. Ivan ruled Russia from 1547 to 1584 and earned the nickname Terrible because of his fearsome rule. Early in his reign, Ivan tried to strengthen Russia, but over time, paranoia took over. Ivan distrusted the powerful nobles or boyars, believing they were conspiring against him. To crush opposition, he created the Oprichniki, a secret police force known for torture and public executions. Towns suspected of rebellion were burned, and innocent people often suffered. Ivan's cruelty extended to his own family. In a moment of rage, he killed his son and heir with his own hands, a tragedy that left Russia vulnerable after Ivan's death. His violent temper and harsh punishments created an atmosphere of fear across the country. Despite the terror, Ivan expanded Russia's territory and centralized power, shaping the country's future. 4. Queen Ranavalona I, the Blood Queen of Madagascar. Ranavalona I ruled Madagascar from 1828 to 1861. She was fiercely determined to keep her kingdom independent from European colonizers, but ruled with ruthless cruelty. She banned Christianity and shut Madagascar off from most foreign influence. To enforce her rule, she used extreme punishments: torture, executions, and forced labor. People suspected of disloyalty were often killed. Some were poisoned, others forced to drink deadly potions or thrown into pits. Thousands died during her reign, making it one of the bloodiest periods in Madagascar's history. Though she kept the island free from colonization, her iron-fisted rule left deep scars on the people. 5. Caligula, the mad Roman emperor. Caligula's 4-year reign from 37 to 41 AD is remembered as one of the most bizarre and cruel in Roman history. He began as a promising leader, but soon showed signs of madness. He wasted enormous amounts of money on extravagant parties, wild games, and strange projects, like building a floating bridge just so he could ride his horse across. Caligula's cruelty was unpredictable and terrifying. He ordered people to be tortured or killed for amusement. He even declared his horse a priest and tried to make a senator, mocking Rome's institutions. His erratic behavior and cruelty created an atmosphere of fear. Eventually, his own guards assassinated him in a palace conspiracy. 6. Attila the Hun, the Scourge of God. Attila was the leader of the Huns from 434 to 453 AD and was one of the most feared warriors of his time. His raids into the Roman Empire caused devastation across Europe. Roman writers called him the Scourge of God, believing his attacks were divine punishment. Attila's armies burned villages, destroyed crops, and slaughtered thousands of civilians. His fearsome reputation made many cities pay him huge sums of gold to avoid attack. Despite his power, Attila died suddenly at a young age, leaving his empire to collapse soon after. 7. Tiberius, the Dark Emperor of Rome. Tiberius ruled Rome from 14 to 37 AD and was known for his cold, suspicious nature. Unlike other emperors, he preferred to stay away from the city, spending much of his reign on the island of Capri. His rule was marked by secret trials, where people were accused of treason and executed without proof. Senators and nobles lived in fear, knowing they could be arrested at any moment. Tiberius's cold leadership style created a culture of fear and silence in Rome, making him one of its darkest rulers. 8. Catherine de' Medici, the Queen of Poison. Catherine de' Medici ruled France during one of its most violent periods. She was queen during the French wars of religion between Catholics and Protestants. To keep her power, Catherine used poison and secret plots. She is believed to have orchestrated several poisonings of enemies and rivals. She is blamed for the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre in 1572, when thousands of Protestants were slaughtered in Paris and across France. Her court was filled with fear and betrayal, where death often came quietly through poison. 9. Shaka Zulu, the Warrior King. Shaka Zulu united many tribes into the powerful Zulu kingdom in the early 19th century. He was a brilliant military leader, but also ruled with an iron fist. He demanded absolute obedience and punished failure with death. Even family members who threatened his power were killed. Shaka's strict discipline and brutal tactics made him feared across southern Africa, but also respected for building a strong kingdom. 10. Vlad the Impaler, the real Dracula. Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler, ruled Wallachia in the 15th century. He became famous for impaling thousands of enemies on long wooden stakes. His punishment was slow and agonizing, meant to terrify anyone who opposed him. Vlad was a fierce defender against the Ottoman Turks, but became known across Europe for his terrifying cruelty. His brutal methods inspired the legend of Dracula and earned him a dark place in history, the dark legacy of ruthless power. When we look back at history, it's clear that the abuse of power is not something new. Across continents and centuries, countless rulers have shown that absolute power often leads to absolute cruelty. These leaders weren't just harsh. They became symbols of terror for their people, sometimes ruling for decades with little opposition, because fear kept everyone silent. Many of these rulers also used public violence not just to punish, but to send a message. Fear was their weapon. By making examples of those who opposed them, they controlled not just with armies, but with psychological terror. The knowledge that a wrong word or a small mistake could lead to torture or death forced people into obedience. More examples of cruelty in ancient leadership. Though we've covered some of the most famous rulers, history has many more examples of cruelty worth mentioning. For instance, the Assyrian kings of Mesopotamia were known for brutal military campaigns. They would capture cities and punish rebels by impaling enemies on stakes or flaying skin from living victims. The Assyrians carved terrifying reliefs showing these punishments, making sure everyone knew the fate of those who resisted. Another example is Emperor Qin Shi Huang of China, who united the country, but also ruled with an iron fist. He ordered the burning of books and buried scholars alive to silence any opposition. Though he built the first version of the Great Wall, his legacy is stained by cruelty and fear. The psychology behind tyranny. What makes a ruler become so cruel? In many cases, fear plays a huge role. Many of these tyrants felt threatened constantly, whether by rivals, enemies, or even their own families. Paranoia often led to violent actions. Ivan the Terrible, for example, was known to act out of suspicion, even killing close family members, convinced they were plotting against him. In other cases, rulers grew so used to violence that it became a tool to maintain order. Caligula's madness, for example, might have started as a mental illness, but quickly became a dangerous way to control Rome through unpredictability and fear. The cost on ordinary people. While we often focus on rulers themselves, it's important to remember the cost of their cruelty. The millions of ordinary people who suffered under their rule. From peasants forced into labor camps to entire cities wiped out by conquerors, the human cost was devastating. For example, during Genghis Khan's conquests, whole populations were destroyed and survivors lived in constant fear. Families were torn apart, cultures lost, and economies destroyed. The same goes for the reign of Queen Ranavalonai, whose people lived under harsh laws that punished even minor offenses with death or torture. Resistance and rebellion. Despite the fear these rulers created, history also shows us stories of resistance. Many times, people risked their lives to oppose cruel rulers. For instance, Roman senators conspired to kill Caligula because of his tyranny. In Russia, after Ivan the Terrible's death, the country faced a time of troubles, a period of rebellion and civil war caused by the power vacuum his violence created. Sometimes, harsh rulers faced rebellion that eventually led to their downfall. Nero's cruelty led to revolts, and Genghis Khan's empire, though vast, fractured shortly after his death as his descendants fought over power. How history remembers these rulers. The stories of these rulers have been passed down through generations, often exaggerated or romanticized, but their cruelty remains undeniable. Their names are warnings, symbols of what happens when power goes unchecked. In some cultures, rulers like Vlad the Impaler became legendary figures, inspiring myths and stories that mix fact with fiction. Others, like Catherine de' Medici, have been painted as the ultimate poisoner, even though history shows her political situation was complex. Lessons from history. These stories aren't just dark tales from the past. They teach us important lessons about leadership, justice, and human rights. When leaders rule through fear and cruelty, societies suffer. But when leaders rule with fairness and respect, people thrive. The cruelty of ancient rulers reminds us to question those in power and to build systems that prevent abuse. It also shows the importance of remembering history, so we don't repeat the same mistakes. These rulers show us the darkest side of power. Their cruelty changed history and reminds us why leaders must rule with justice, mercy, and care for their people. If you found this video fascinating, please hit the subscribe button for more deep dives into history's most gripping stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.